Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the fourth of 5 events for this week's Daytona Speedweek for Season 10 of NNSCRA Walmart Cup Series. I am Levi McIntyre, a.k.a. ThrashManiac99, the voice of NNSCRA Walmart Cup Series, here to welcome you to final practice for the Daytona 500 tomorrow. This is going to be a big practice session. We're going to see who works best in the draft, and maybe we'll see some of what's happening tomorrow for the 500, so we shall see how it all goes down. So here is your final entry list for the Daytona 500 as far as who is on the pole. As a result of what happened to Charles Jackson, the winner of duel number 1 is going to get the pole, and that is Matt McIntyre. So he is the new pole setter for the Daytona 500. Steven Guerrero, on the other hand, will stay second. So that is your little front row for the 500 now. So with that said, let's go ahead and get this session underway for the final 10 minutes before the Daytona 500, as we wait for all the cars to pop in and get going on the racetrack. And who will be the first one to come out to practice? We are waiting for that person to pull out, and I see one. And that looks like Austin Mongold. No, it's actually Kyle Keith. Kyle Keith, who won duel number 2, dominated duel number 2. He led every lap in duel number 2, but the racing throughout was still great. It wasn't necessarily a full-on nobody was near him thing like we saw in M&M's last season. Instead, Kyle Keith ended up winning duel number 2, so he's going to get to start 4th in the Daytona 500. So that is very crucial for that 42 team. Next car I see in line is Chris Washer. And pretty much for most of these I'm going to forget. It's basically the top 4 I'm going to remember. But Chris Washer, I think if I recall, he is going to be starting around the middle to the end of the pack for the Daytona 500. Then you got Chase Oliver. Chase Oliver, I believe, is going to be starting 20th, if I'm correct, because I remember he finished 10th in duel number 2, and that was the outside lane, so I think he will be starting 20th in the Daytona 500. Then you got Kevin Shearer, who was one of the 3 that made it in from duel number 2. Finished in 6th, I believe, in that race, so I think he'll get the start 12th in the Daytona 500, so pretty good starting spot for the newcomer at Penske. Then you got a triple car pack. Trent Dunham is in there. If I recall, I think he had a rough duel number 1, so he's going to probably be in the back. Tanner Sullivan, I believe from what I can remember, he had a decent run in duel number 1. Austin LaPlante, I believe, is going to be starting around the back for the 500. Michael Norman, I think the same thing. Jesse said he had to go to a new car as a result of getting involved in that big wreck on the final lap of duel number 1 going into the catch fence. So she is going to be starting around near dead last. Austin Mongold, I don't remember where he's going to be starting. Blaine Keys, I believe if I recall, he finished 5th in, as I just had a freeze moment. I believe he's going to be finishing, or I believe he finished 5th in duel number 1, so he's going to get to start 9th in the Daytona 500. Matthew Dallio, I think, is going to be in the back. DJ Curtis, I think he finished 10th, I believe, in duel number 1, so he's going to get to start 19th in the 500. William Duncan, who came in, started dead last in duel number 2, but finished 2nd, so he's going to get to start 6th in the Daytona 500. And then you got Michael Norman. Like I said, I think he's going to be in the back. Carson Gum, I think it's the same thing. Preston Plord, I believe he's going to be about mid-pack. David Rivera, I think, is the back. Same with Jessica Sheldon, James McLeod. And there's Kyle Keith again. Charles Sanford is here. Sean Galligan, Matthew Dallio. I believe that is Dallio. No, that's Tim Walsh. I must have picked the wrong Apologize for that. Must have picked the wrong paint scheme. I'm sorry. He'll be back in the 5-hour energy car for the 500. And there is your new pole sitter, Matt McIntyre, because he won duel number 1. He's going to end up starting on the pole for the 500 instead of Charles Jackson, who I see right here. There's Washer, Kyle Matthews. Yeah, Charles Jackson would have been on the pole, but he ended up getting involved in that big crash at the last lap off of turn 4 in duel number 1. And now, as a result, he's going to be starting towards the very back of the field in a backup car. Same with Sean Henley. And then Pichu London, we see. Zach Rogers is up here. Nick Alton. Here's Joshua Collard. Dorian Facepuncher. There's Chase Oliver. And there's your second place starter, Steven Guerrero. Joseph Strigley is up here. Same with Zach Flickinger. And Seth Cole. PJ Williams, Johnny Gardner's here. There's Anthony Ritchie, James Richardson. There's Kevin Shearer, Dylan Thoreau, John Cittadino, Dylan Young. There's Jesse Setti, Anthony McCrory. I believe that is everybody in the field that I've talked about. So, yeah, pretty much a quick run-through of everybody running the 500. Right now, the fastest of the drivers in the practice board is Zach Flickinger by 9 1/1000ths of a second over Jessica Shelton. So, Zach Flickinger, he had a very good run in duel number 2 and made it in, finishing, if I recall, I think he finished 5th in duel number 2. So he's going to end up starting, I think, in the 10th spot. So he could be a dark horse for this race. You never know. And Flickinger right now is the fastest of all drivers. But it's really just all about... Oh, and Steven Guerrero! Oh, teammates collide! Chase Oliver turns his teammate Steven Guerrero. Hope that's not a team rivalry brewing. That would be unfortunate in just its first season together as a team. Or maybe Steven just ran out of room trying to get in front of the 68, and that's what happened. Oh, careful. Wow, Mongol nearly T-boned the 8. But luckily, no damage on the 8 car. There you see all the skid marks from that spin. So, yeah, luckily no damage for the 8. Otherwise, if he would have crashed, he would have had to go to a backup car too. And then Kyle Keith would have got to start second instead of Steven. So, man, oh man. Just some crazy stuff going down. With 2.5 minutes left in this final practice. And now we have a new fast driver on the board. And that is, if I can find him, there he is, Matt McIntyre, who's on the pole for the 500. Wow, he just got an even faster lap time right there. He is in a nice big pack with quite a number of cars. As I continue to look throughout the track to see what is all happening, as we got less than 2 minutes to spare in final practice before the Daytona 500 tomorrow. And there is the 24 of Matt McIntyre, who actually ran an even faster lap this time. David Rivera moves into second, Jessica Sheldon in the third, Sean Galligan fourth, Preston Plord fifth. So the top 5 has changed up quite a number of times. And that's because we got this nice big pack led by Carson Gum now. And both the front row starters are in this pack. Matt McIntyre, Steven Guerrero. I got a feeling these guys are going to maybe eclipse the 44-second bracket in the lap times here in this session. Let's watch the 24, see how he does. And not from the 44s, but definitely still faster than his lap previous. Now, it's going to be close to see if these guys are going to be able to finish. Well, then again, I think they've got the additional 45-second clock after this 30 seconds is over, so that way they can get this lap in for sure. Top 5 on the leaderboard still the same. Let's see who's slowest right now, and that's William Duncan, and he's the only one that's not in the 45s. I think he's been running by himself. Man, I got a feeling these laps maybe are going to be in the 44s. Let's see. Turns out, no, they're all still in the 45s. But these guys are going to have one last lap, I would say. I think they're going to have one. I think they'll be able to make it back for this final lap with 30 seconds to go in the official practice time. As Matt McIntyre's been the guy to keep an eye on in this session, the pole sitter, as he's just been running really quick and running well in the draft. So he's going to be a interesting one to watch out for in the 500. Let's see if he managed to improve. No, actually not. Oh, we did get a guy getting the 44s, and that was David Rivera by 3/1000ths of a second over the 45 even. So that does it for our practice session for today. David Rivera was the fastest, so good job for him. What a practice session we had, but tomorrow it's going to be big. It's the Daytona 500. Until then, I'm signing off.